Welcome. Before I call this meeting to order, I'd like to ask everyone to please place their phones on silent or vibrate. And under call to the public, you have 3 minutes to speak. And please state your name for the record. With that said, I'm going to call this meeting to order. And Mr. Paz, will you lead us in the pledge, sir? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. Item B, adoption of the agenda. Mr. Manager, good morning.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, there's no changes to the agenda.
Okay, this time I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt agenda and allow chair to deviate as needed.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented and allow the chair to deviate as necessary.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Item C, call to the public. I have one slip here with me. Pam Lemke, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Pam Lipke, and I live in Tubac, and I'm here because John Fanning asked me to come talk during call to the public today. So I want to just give you my resume, not to look at this now, but you guys all know me from my appearances here related to the mine and the river, but my professional background is actually in healthcare. I was a nurse midwife for Kaiser, and if you don't know about Kaiser, they're a large integrated healthcare system in California. I've delivered over 3,000 babies, and so I was present for the emergency preparedness focus group. And I'm here talking off the cuff because I got to tell you, I was astounded and horrified that this county has 2 911 systems. And that's something that should be addressed and should have been addressed when it was first noted. It's the most important thing to start with high-functioning healthcare teams is a good communication process, and different organizations like first responders, fire departments, hospital departments, they all focus on communication to start. That's the most important resources and skills that you have to function as a high-functioning team during an emergency. And if you've got 2 911 systems and this is what your own county employees mentioned during that focus group, and everybody here should know and persuade the county to address this, if your police department in Nogales can't talk to the sheriff's department in the county, that is a setup for not being able to respond appropriately to emergencies. And this means people's lives are unnecessarily at risk. That is not something that's related to an infrastructure gap that you have to address because you're a rural county. That should have been addressed. Whatever obstacles made that happen, it should have been nipped in the bud as soon as it was noticed. I mean, whatever it is, and I know that there's all sorts of things in this county about history having to do with, outsiders and educated people coming in and telling them to do things that they don't want to do. But there was an absolute consensus. Every single person at that meeting, and some of them are known to you, said the same thing. And they said, bring in an outside consultant and address that. And the other thing I want to say, because I was actually hired to teach in the nursing program at Pima College here in Nogales, but got sick. So withdrew my application and decided not to do that. But in addition to getting started with whatever Mr. Reisner wants to get going for the community college, every single first responder in this county needs to be trained to be a medical first responder. It's my understanding that you currently have first responders in the county that have to call another fire department to come respond to medical emergencies, especially on the eastern end of the county, or if you're driving on 82. That's completely inappropriate when you're going to have the possibility of large trucking accidents. I did write a couple notes here. That's been off the cuff so far. Please, if you do a groundwater assessment, and I hope that you will, consult with your local stakeholders, including the local environmental groups that are here at every single one of these meetings, because some of them are water experts and we're by profession. And you've dealt with the infrastructure gaps, but I did a double check, and the School of Public Health hasn't been talked to yet. So I know you've all had a chance to review those findings from the focus group. Please take them to heart.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's not an item on the agenda, but we'll ask our manager to look into the emergency 911 system. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come up on call to the public? There we go. Good morning, Kathy.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Kathy Campana from Rio Rico. Piggybacking on what she said, we still have 2 towers out there without anything on them. And that is really a big gap in our communication system. So if there's some way to get those towers up and running, not only will it bring income in from the leases, but it will provide a whole lot more coverage for our emergency services. And as an afterthought, 2 weeks ago, you published a public hearing, but it was never opened. So anyone who wished to speak was not invited to do so. Please, next time you advertise one, have one.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. My name is John Nordstrom. I live down in Maui, technically Patagonia, but Maui, Arizona. The last meeting, I asked if we could make a request to South 32 to put rock on the road inside the private property. That road gets really sloppy when it gets wet. Unfortunately and fortunately, we've had kind of a crappy monsoon this year, so the road hasn't been a problem. But when it does get wet, it gets really sloppy, and it's almost impassable for car traffic. Trucks obviously can get through, but for automobiles, it's a problem. So for the next meeting, if possible, it'd be great if you guys could provide an update on the status of that request, their response, and when we could possibly get that implemented. And, you know, if they wait till after monsoon's over, then they have another year, right? The second thing I want to talk about, and this is the only other thing I wanted to talk about, is well monitoring. There is some debate out there about what the cause of potential well water level drop is. Is it climate change? Is it drought conditions? Is it mine dewatering? And because we will never actually know the real reason, it's important that we get baseline data on all the wells in the county, particularly the ones that are closest to the mine. So I would request that you guys think about putting in place a program where you have the equipment and maybe have staff go out and do it, or let residents borrow the equipment, but let them on a quarterly basis monitor their wells, particularly the folks that feel like they're being impacted who are not being monitored by the mine. I'm lucky in the sense that the mine is monitoring my well, and they have been doing it quarterly since 2020, so that's great. But for residents that are concerned and they're not currently being monitored by the mine at the mine's expense, it would be great if you guys would think about putting in place a program for residents to be able to monitor their own well levels on a quarterly basis. And it's important that it's done quarterly, well, at least quarterly, because you want to get before monsoon, during monsoon, after monsoon. You want to see how the water changes over time, and that way you can better look for trends. But the only way we can make informed decisions longer term about the impact of the mining on the local community is if we have data, and now is a good time to start collecting that data. So that's my request, and I would appreciate it if you'd seriously consider that and possibly give us an update at the next meeting as to what the next steps might be on that request.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your help.
Thank you, John.
Go ahead, sir.
Morning, sirs.
Morning.
My name is Chris Rokoffen, and I live in Sonoida and have been studying what's going on for a long time. To keep my thoughts arranged, I would like to read up instead of speak freely, if that's okay to you.
Yes, sir.
In your capacity of supervising public health and your participation in the committee that is developing a so-called community protection and benefit agreement with mining company South 32, I do have some questions. They refer to emissions in the air permit that was recently granted to South 32 and presented also with added emissions in the DES as recently proposed by the Coronado National Forest Service. In this context, the DES appears to be the vehicle to request an expansion of public land of South 32, with as a consequence that even more emissions are going to be approved, apparently by CNF, on top of what ADQ has already approved. I wonder what the recourse of this is to the public. The two questions I have are as follows. What is the benefit to the people to have emissions of PM2.5, a dangerous form of particles, increase more than twofold, and that of lead compounds more than 30 times above the current background? What is the benefit to the people? Using EPA assessment, these numbers refer to thousands of premature deaths over the life of the mine per 100,000 residents. The county may not have 100,000 residents, but it may have after 70 years of operation. Who knows? But anyway, you can prorate that to the current situation. The deaths are mainly of cardiovascular nature or lung cancer, just for the record. The effect of lead emissions may be of more neurological nature, like Parkinson, but so far I haven't found any numbers, absolute numbers, so to speak. The second question is, who is going to pay for the societal costs associated with those increases? And these are increases above the current baseline. According to EPA assessment, society cost can accumulate to more than $50 billion over the mine lifetime. That's a lot of money. If South 32 must pay it will add tens of dollars to their,
Time's up, sir.
okay, tens of dollars to each ton of the extracted ore. I don't think they will survive that. Anyway, I would like to end up here. It's a little bit shorter than I intended, but I'm willing to explain more details before the committee. But on what else I already asked them, I have not received any response, and that's the reason why I'm here now. So you don't have to answer now, probably. It's not possible. But I would like to communicate with you guys on that particular subject in the future. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
Mr. Navarro.
Good morning, Mr. Supervisors. Good morning, everyone. Jerry Navarro, Rio Rico. In reference to what the young lady said earlier, emergency management and having one emergency channel for all different agencies. Many years ago in the 70s, I believe it was, I was in the Marine Corps, and I was assigned to the Orange County Military Police. And in Orange County, California, we had like over 30 some odd agencies. And we had an emergency response system like she's alluding to. As military policemen out there, we were known as Station 16. And I know how invaluable this is because I had occasion to use it once. I had a prisoner trying to escape from my van. And I got on the radio and I called for help. And I had 3 different agencies that were tended to help me. Anyway, that kind of cooperation among agencies, it was at the federal, state, and local level, by the way, because realize Marine Corps, we're military. But we all got together, and we got the guy before he got away. And I think this is a very significant issue in the matter of it being a safety for the officers. I really do agree with her, and I think we should do something about this and find a way to get this done. And I know how it was done in California. I don't know if it can be done here, but we should at least look into it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jerry.
Anyone else? Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to current events. Mr. Davis, good morning.
Good morning. So we keep expanding the podcast, so I'm just going to read. I'm very happy with the results. So far, we have 23 episodes. So, for example, Juan Valderas, Chief Executive Officer, Alma Schultz, Nikki Brenner, Deputy Clerk of the Board, Jose Peña, Animal Control Manager, Leonard Fontes, Public Works Director, Robert Rojas, Development Service Manager, Paulina Lopez, Senior Court Administrator, Silveira Castro, Director of Emergency Management, Primitivo Romero, Human Resources Director, Luis Fimbres, Chief Probation Officer, Arizona at Work, Saida Bustamante, Pablo Guzman, Clerk of the Superior Court, Chris Young, Deputy County Manager, Yolanda Corey, Chief Deputy Recorder, Commander Agustin Huerta, Cecilia Mejia, Fiduciary, John Fanning, Supervisor, District 3, Rudy Molera, Supervisor, District 2, Adriano Lais, Justice of the Peace, Jesus Valdez, County Manager, Alejandro Paz, Treasurer, Jose Arriola, Health and Human Services Deputy Director, Deputy County Manager, Mauricio Chavez and Maria, Pablo Ramos, Assessor. So I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for making this possible. It was a big effort. I also want to thank Natalie Flores, one of the interns, and Samuel Acosta, and Shannon Hall, because everybody should go and learn from these interviews. We still have, a couple, maybe like 1 or 2 more. And we also have a video on the sheriff. Everything is on YouTube, so I hope that the community get to learn more on what we do based on this podcast. It was a lot of work, so I want to thank everybody once again. Another update that I have is that this past Monday, I went to El Zarape. So that was my 3rd cafecito. Every Monday, I've been going there for 8 to 11. So next Monday is going to be the last one. Just go there for 3 hours, meet with people, talk to people, take questions, and just connect with the community. So next Monday will be the last one. I also want to thank Socorro Hernandez, the original owner, and the Hernandez family, because they've been very, very welcoming. And after I finish with this cafecito, I'm going to find another place so I can keep touring District 1. So those are some of my updates.
I thought you said you were going to Two-Back Deli.
I'll go with Mr. Fanning.
Just kidding. No, but I'll tell you what, that's a success. He's had the opportunity to talk to people and dialogue, and I want to commend Supervisor Davis, because I attended it this week, and it was awesome. Good job.
Thank you.
Vice Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. A lot of things going on. I've been part of 3 rural water working group meetings. Anna was part of it, was it yesterday, I believe it was, or 2 days ago. And so we're continuing to discuss the water situation among the smaller counties. Yesterday, we talked about polling results from people throughout the state regarding water and how they felt about water and the conservation. So I can't share. I wanted to share those results, but I've got to wait on that. So hopefully the next meeting, I'll be able to share some of those. I was at the County Teacher of the Year ceremony. Congratulations to Journey Hayes and runner-up Anna Coleman for the Teacher of the Year and the runner-up. A couple updates about the Border Patrol wall building in the eastern portion of the county. Thank you to the County Manager Jesus, and then Shannon and I went out there. We saw, first of all, we saw it from computer view, and then we drove out there. So it's a beautiful drive. But ultimately, there's going to be in the next 3 years, 27 miles of wall. It's a 3-year project. We're going to continue to have biweekly meetings. And one of the things that I was concerned about, and I made it known to Stuart Lowe, who's a reporter up in Phoenix, was the lack of communication between local towns, counties, cities, and the federal government. So I'm very, very happy that there's some communication and that we can relay that to the constituents. So that was good. CPBA meetings, hopefully Pat will talk a little bit about the CPBA, what's happening there. Recently, we had U of A, and it was a real good meeting where we talked about gap analysis. So that was fantastic. So about 2 months ago, there was a tour of the Water Commission area. I wasn't able to be part of that because I had another commitment. But I want to thank John Light with the International Border Water Commission. We took a ride all the way from where the water enters all the way to the border, and some of the plans that they may have, bless you, for water there. We talked about PFAS, and I'm looking forward to hearing about that today. We talked about the drug screen and what cartels are doing to get their drugs into the United States using those the pipes. And one of the things that we talked about, and I'm going to try to push for more, but 5.5 billion gallons of water per year is released into the Santa Cruz. So I'm going to continue to push for more. There's dialogue between Mexico and the United States and the treaty that they have in place for that. So we'll see if we can make that happen. I want to congratulate Tom Mickelrath. He's a teacher at Quatamundi. He entered the Tubac Center of the Arts members only art display, and over 140 artists were there, and he won Best of Show. It's just a fantastic photo. So congratulations to Tom. I met with Chief Meredith, and I know that's one of the things that Pam referenced as far as the emergency. I talked to him in great depth. I'm going to have a lot more information on that at the next meeting. I want to thank Chris Young and the community development. Yesterday I was able to meet for 15 minutes with each one of the team members up there. They've got quite a team, and they have quite a bit of experience, over 20 years plus of folks that work up in there in the community development, so thank you. My advisory committee is meeting, I think, next week, next Wednesday, so we're looking forward to that. Eastern County drop-ins. Shannon and I have been working together. I'm taking a page out of Supervisor Davis's book, meeting out at the eastern portion of the county for 4 hours at least once a month, one in Sonoyta, one in Elgin, Sonoyta, Elgin, and we're going to go back and forth, so that's going to come out on our newsletter. Please, if you're not part of that newsletter, subscribe or reach out to Shannon Hall. So that's great. So thank you, Shannon, with the help there. Last Saturday, I'm grandpa for the second time, and I'm extremely happy with my granddaughter and my son and my daughter-in-law. But right after that, we had a snafu. Going to Bisbee, thought we had a reservation at the hotel, and no, we didn't. But we made the best out of it. On the way back, we stopped at the Stakeout, so I'm going to put a plug in for the Stakeout in Sonoyta. Great food. And lastly, I just got off of a meeting with NACO, which is the National Association of Counties. I'm part of the health and education group, I guess. I'm one of 5 that represents that throughout the nation. Today we talked about SNAP and WIC, which is, the food, the free food. What's a better way to call that? Free and reduced rates, and how we're worried about that moving into, moving in the next couple of months. We talked about early childhood education and the funding for that, and then we talked about education as a whole throughout the nation. So, thank you. That's all I have.
Good job. Good job.
Just a quick,
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
something really quick. I forgot to thank Mauricio Chavez because he went to my cafecito the first time. Mr. Paz and Bettina Damon for going with me the second time, and the county manager, Jesus. So basically, this last one, I'll take somebody else so that the idea is for people and the community to get a diverse point of views, you know? So that, I just want to make that comment.
Good job. Excellent. We've been busy, but we all attended the Teacher of the Year, and always an excellent event. I want to commend Amaya for her first Teacher of the Year. Good job. Congratulations. And congratulations, Carrie. We're super happy for you on your appointment of Chief Deputy. We know you'll do an excellent job. Super happy for you. We, again, congratulations on your cafecitos. They've been a success. On the podcast as well, getting information out to the public as to what goes on in the county. Good, proactive, positive information from the county. We also, Supervisor Davis and myself and our manager, Mr. Valdez, attended a roundtable with our Attorney General, Chris Mays. She had Port Authority there, the city of Nogales. They had stakeholders, maquiladoras, the produce people, cattle people, because in the big topic of that of concern was the tariffs and how it's affecting and how it will affect the produce, the maquiladoras, because you get a lot of product going back and forth. American made, going to Mexico, then it's coming back. And so it's really tricky, and I know in talking to South 32, they're having issues with buying some of their product as well that's got tariffs on it. So we're all having to deal with this. So she's trying to help. I think she's got several lawsuits going against the tariffs and pushing to support our local community. Also, we met with Nexus, Anama, Bob, and Tracy, our manager, and Leonard and myself met with them, and these people are critical. They're our arm in Washington, D.C. They've brought back over $15 million in the last 2.5 years to Santa Cruz County. And we talked about prospects of funding and infrastructure. We talked about challenges with all the new changes with the government. How are we going to deal with these challenges? And grant opportunities, obviously, and what we need to do from our part to put ourselves in good situations to get funding for some of these projects that we're looking into. As a matter of fact, one of the projects we had already secured enough money for now doesn't have enough funding. Our bridge, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Manager, but our bridge that's going to fly over the railroad by Pilot on Ruby we had secured enough funding, but with all the elevation of prices with the tariffs, now it's double the price. So we need to secure more funding now, so we don't have enough funding to start and complete that project. So a lot of changes going on that we need to deal with. And basically that's all I have to report. I will be hosting, I know we're doing a lot of proactive work, and I may be doing some cafecitos myself. I love the idea. I hope he doesn't mind me stealing it. But I will be hosting an open house in September. I have a tentative date, but I'm not sure yet. But I love that work, and good job, Luis Carlos and Vice Chairman. And that's all I have to report. Next, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I attended the IBWC Southeast Arizona Citizen Forum board meeting. In that meeting, NAD Bank presented their program, basically all the projects that they're working on. After that, ADEQ did a presentation on Oso Canyon. That's where Rasu, which is coming across the Oso Canyon, across the border. So they talked a little bit about that. The county's very interested. You know, we want to mitigate that situation, so we're talking about partnering up and coordinating the project. And then to finish it off, IBWC, John Light gave a little update of what's going on with the treatment plant. Thank you.
Did I hear we got funding for the screens in the, for the sewer, IOI?
Mr. Chair, so far, it hasn't been voted on, but it's in the plan. So it's about $6 million for the drug screen is in this funding cycle at the federal level.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item E, finance, cash, and investments, expenditures, and revenue reports. Maria Martinez, good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Molera, members of the board. For the cash and investment report, we have $20,179,915 in the general fund, with an invested amount of $16,324,922. $5,998,634 in the road fund, with an invested amount of $5,048,991. $2,537,737 in the flood control district fund, with an invested amount of $304,289. $5,165,250 in the jail district, with an invested amount of $4,336,886. For a total amount of $56,336,273, with an invested amount of $28,105,572, and a total estimated end of the month balance of $7,396,569.
Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any departments wishing to report? Mr. Paz, good morning, sir.
Shocker, I know. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board, members of the public. Quick update. So after board approval of the tax rates for the county and schools is completed, while waiting for the approval from the Arizona Department of Revenue, the Treasurer's Office is when it begins its review of the process to start the tax statement. And in this year, in the review process, we were able to identify 3 discrepancies on the school rate tax rates that were submitted. And so modifications were needed and made by the corresponding school districts to ensure accurate levy amounts and tax rates. With that update, I also wanted to just thank the newly and amazing appointed School Superintendent Maya Donnelly for also looking into this immediately and helping me and the districts get this resolved so that we can make sure we have an accurate and a correct tax bill. And then lastly, really quickly, removing my treasurer's hat, I also serve on the board for the Boys and Girls Club. Just wanted to provide an update that the Boys and Girls Club Two-Back Wine Festival is already scheduled for October 24th. So just wanted to give everybody in the community a heads up. It's a great event. Last year was my first time attending. This year will be my first year helping out in the food tents. So come out, support the local Boys and Girls Club of Santa Cruz County, and have a good time. Thank you.
I'll take 2 tickets, sir.
Thank you.
What is the time on that?
It's from 5 to 9.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good
Chairman
morning.
Molera, Supervisor Davis,
Morning.
Supervisor Fanning, County Management, and community members. I'd like to just give you a little update of grant programs that we're starting the new school year with. We have many things on your agenda today. I wanted to just explain a couple, but before that, Chairman Moleta, you leaked my announcement. I want to congratulate
Sorry.
Carrie Munoz, Chief Deputy in the School Superintendent's Office. She brings a wealth of knowledge, both experience in the classroom. She was also a business owner, so she has a wealth of knowledge in accounting and bookkeeping. Thank goodness. You'll be happy, Alejandro. Okay, so we were lucky enough, even in these uncertain times, to receive some new grant funding that we're really pleased about. One was from the Office of the Governor, Youth, Faith, and Family, and that project we've named Project SHIELD. I don't know if you remember back to the DARE program, which is 5th grade. We used to have the GREAT program in the 7th. Went away with lack of funding, but Project SHIELD is going to bring back the ability to have these lessons in 7th grade classrooms. That's the grade level that we're targeting for prevention, for substance abuse prevention classes. We're using a curriculum called Too Good for Drugs. That's an evidence-based curriculum. Terry Sprague is the program manager, and she'll be working with all 5 school districts to get this program into our schools. And she's already kicking off the program tomorrow with a training, so that's amazing. That is a 3-year grant award, $193,000 per year. Happy about that. The next one is Project FELT, and actually our project name is Igniting Early Literacy. This is a grant award from the Arizona Department of Education. It's $185,000 per year, renewable for 5 years. So this is some good funding. This project is specifically designated to create literacy hubs in our community for early childhood. So this will be able to fund our Santa Cruzer mobile library. We actually, let me back up a little bit. Our office wrote the grant with 2 partners, the U of A Cooperative Extension and the Family Resource Centers, and then the Nogales Santa Cruz Public Libraries. So working together, we'll be able to fund our bus, expand the Family Resource Centers, especially into the east part of the county, and then to get our local library staffs trained for early childhood methodologies like raising a reader and abriendo puertas is what they're called. And the most exciting part about this is that the Family Resource Centers are going to be able to expand their hours. They'll have afternoon hours for story time. And then we'll be able to help the libraries restock their early childhood literacy collections and equip our Santa Cruzer mobile library with the capabilities to check in and check out books right there on the bus wherever we go into the community. So excited about that. Lastly, we were awarded a Smarty grant from South 32 for $206,000. That is going to help us fund our special projects. Everybody knows about Tecnolochicas, the middle school program for Latina girls. Our robotics after school clubs for grades 3rd through 5th. And Lincoln is actually piloting a K2 program this year. We'll see how that goes, and we can expand on that. Also, monies for rent to pay for adult ed classrooms at the Santa Cruz Center. Money to support our mobile library and bus maintenance. And then money to support our early childhood grant, Los Padres, to be able to expand visits, be able to support our 50 families in our home visitation program. So I know that these grants all create more work for our finance team, our HR team, our legal team. So thank you all for your support and help. Maria, wink, wink. I know we give you a lot of work. Bill and Bob especially, thank you for all of the agreement help. We appreciate it. Team effort, right? Thank you.
Good job. Congratulations.
Maya? I have a couple questions. I just want to say, first of all, when I was principal of Calabasas, the robotics and the Tecnolochicas was absolutely fantastic. But one of the I wanted to ask you about, it's Too Good for Drugs. Is it similar to, probably about 5-10 years ago, that we went through that Terry Sprigg headed up at that point?
It is. It's out of the same department, Youth, Faith, and Family. It's very similar. It's a lot of family engagement. And then it's 10 lessons and an after-school wellness club. So we'll be able to provide stipends for an on-site counselor to help us facilitate those things.
Wonderful. They're all fantastic opportunities for our kids.
Thank you.
And I know Terry will do a good job, and congratulations, Carrie.
Definitely. Thank you.
Maya,
More
something
questions?
quick. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
More than a question. So I would like to coordinate a trip to Tucson with one of my former teachers when I was doing my PhD, Dr. Short.
Okay.
They have the Wobo Library there.
Oh,
And they have a lot of resources already. Like one time we got a chance to take the Nogales Public Library librarians. So since they have a lot of resources, I think let me coordinate a trip because I
Okay.
would like for you to meet them. And I mean, since you're doing a lot of these
That would be
projects,
great.
I think it's going to be really good for our community.
okay. That
And
would be
maybe next
wonderful.
year we can have the literacy bus at the book festival in Tucson.
Definitely. We're
Okay.
about to buy a new set of tires.
Sounds good?
We can make the trip.
Let's do it.
Wait. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Thank you, Maya. Anyone else? Any other departments? Okay. Item 3, I believe we are not doing that. The person's out of town. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to move into item 1, an update on PFAS in Santa Cruz County by Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. Mr. Fanning,
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You have 3 minutes, by the way. No, just kidding.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, Mr.
Welcome.
Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being here, by the way.
Appreciate that. So my name is Matt Narder. I am a senior hydrogeologist at ADEQ. I've been working on PFAS issues for a number of years at the department, so I appreciate this opportunity to come and talk to you about what we know about PFAS here in Santa Cruz County. Before I begin, I just want to point out, I think that we have my colleagues at the Arizona Department of Health Services possibly on the line. Do we know that? Okay, maybe we don't, but they couldn't be here in person. We were hoping they'd be able to join online, so we'll see if they can be here. But they really deal with a lot of the health issues. So if there's questions on health or concerns from the community, they're able to answer those questions a little bit better. So if they can join, they'll be there for that. They also deal more directly with private wells, which is one of the key topics I want to discuss today. And so while ADQ really works with the public water systems closely, they deal more directly with these private wells. So we'll see if they're able to join, but I may be able to answer some of the questions as we go. So I just want to use the first couple slides I've put together here, just a little bit of background, what are we talking about, and why am I here? So PFAS, a lot of people have heard of PFAS now, or maybe heard them by their nickname that's out there in the media a lot, is Forever Chemicals. PFAS is an acronym, PFAS, stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. It's a big group of chemicals. Sometimes it gets confused with being like a single contaminant. It's actually a big group of chemicals that all have slightly different structures and properties, but they have a lot of things in common. What you see up here is an example of a common PFAS molecule. So this is really when we're talking about environmental concerns or sampling in drinking water. A lot of times or almost always, we're talking about molecules with these kind of structures. So they've got that functional head you see with the red, and then this long chain of carbons that are connected to fluorines. And I won't go into all the chemistry, but I just point that out because this structure gives them a lot of unique properties, a lot of properties that have been extremely beneficial for consumer products and industrial processes. So they've been used ever since their invention in the 1940s in just a whole host of products, things you've probably heard of, water-resistant clothing, waterproof clothing, cookware, fast food products, and firefighting foam, things like that. So they're oil repellents, they're water repellents, they resist heat, they don't break down easily. So all things that are really great for putting in products. Unfortunately, those same characteristics, it's really that carbon-fluorine bond that's really, really strong. And so they don't break down easily. That means that that's great for the products they're in, but when they're out in the environment, they don't break down in the environment. When they get into our bodies, they don't easily pass through, and they can accumulate in our bodies. And of course, none of that would be particularly that bad if it weren't for the fact that we now have numerous scientific studies showing that even at relatively low concentrations, exposure to PFAS over a long period of time can cause negative health effects. So that's really the issue that we have with PFAS. That's why they're in the news so much. In terms of why we're here, so you might be asking, like, okay, that's great, maybe it's interesting, but why are they different from a lot of the other contaminants that we deal with? So DEQ regularly samples, monitors for, regulates contaminants throughout Arizona. I think the real difference here is that PFAS are new. They're still relatively new. Folks are not all that familiar with them even today. And so they're different from some of the contaminants we have, like nitrate, arsenic, fluoride, things that we commonly have in our water. ADHS that I mentioned earlier, U of A, they have a lot of resources for well owners in the state. Those resources all talk about these kind of contaminants like arsenic and nitrates, and you should sample for them in your water. You should be aware of them. But PFAS, those resources are kind of being produced. We're still out there trying to communicate that, and that's one of the reasons for me being here today. Now, when we talk about well owners, we've got private well owners, we've got public water systems. So on the public water system side, those public water system owners at this point should be familiar with PFAS. They should be aware of PFAS. ADQ's been out there talking to public water systems, all the regulated public water systems, talking about, we do have new regulations now at this point, federal regulations from EPA for PFAS specifically in public drinking water systems. So we've been working with those systems. I'll show some results here in a few minutes, but pretty much just about all of our regulated public water systems in the state have now sampled for PFAS. They should be providing those results to their customers through consumer confidence reports. So if you get your water from a public drinking water system, hopefully if there's PFAS in the water, you know about that already. The system has communicated to you. If you have questions about that, you can talk to the system themselves. We also have resources on our webpage where you can go look up those results also for yourself. The story is a little bit different when it comes to private well users and private well owners. So we don't have as direct communication with those private well users as we do with the public water systems. And so that's where we're looking for opportunities like this to come out and basically just inform people, make them aware not only of what PFAS are, but also that we have these results, that there is information about whether PFAS may or may not be in certain areas. So a couple of things I just want to point out. I want to make it clear we do not regulate private wells. So we do regulate those public water systems I was talking about. That's why we have that good communication with them. On the on the private well side of things, we absolutely do not tell private well users what they can and can't do with their water. But we do want to communicate with them. We do want to let them know what we know about PFAS, particularly here in Santa Cruz County. And we want to provide this communication, definitely not to cause alarm or try to cause concern within the communities, but simply to get this information out there, to let them know what we know and allow these well owners to make informed decisions for themselves and their family about what they're going to do with their water. So that's the kind of basic setup to why I'm here. I want to give a little bit of background of some of the things I was just talking about, so particularly the regulations that we now have in place. So these have been coming for a long time. They date all the way back to the middle of last decade, where EPA, through several administrations, has been working on developing these rules. We did get the final regulation in place a little over a year ago. You can see them here in this chart. I won't go into details. There's a lot of complications with the regulation itself, but that's why we've been out there educating the water systems. I just want to point out a couple of things here. So there's 6 individual PFAS. As I said, there's a whole bunch of PFAS. It's a big group. We've got regulations now for 6 of them. They happen to overlap with 6 of the more commonly detected PFAS here in Arizona. I'll also point out, so what you see there in the numbers are what we call a maximum contaminant level. That is the limit by which, at which public water systems can serve water to their customers. Those numbers are actually very, very small. They look normal, 4 and 10, but the units on those are parts per trillion, and that's a really, really small number. It reflects the concern with even small concentrations building up in our bodies over time. That part per trillion, just for reference, if it's even helpful, that's a single drop of fluid in 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So if you can even wrap your head around that, that's a very, very tiny amount. But we can very accurately analyze for that in our drinking water, so we know whether it's there or not in those concentrations. Now, there's been a lot of work, as I said, this has been going on for years, and there's been a lot of work to get water systems to sample and understand what's in the drinking water in these public water systems. One big effort has been EPA's Unregulated Contaminant Monitoring Rule. It has the acronym UCMR. You may recall that I just said that they are regulated, but this rule actually came into place, the fifth rule, where they set a list of contaminants for systems. There we go. They set this list of contaminants. That was actually put in place before we had the regulation. So these systems have been out there now. They've been sampling for these contaminants to understand what's in their water. But this applies to the bigger systems in the state. So it's systems like City of Nogales that are serving more than 3,300 people. The vast majority of our systems, though, in the state are actually less than 3,300 people. So they did not have this requirement to sample. And so ADQ stepped in and really found it very important that these systems understood what's in their water, were prepared for the new rule that was coming. And so at this point, we've helped over 700 smaller public water systems conduct their sampling, get their results. And there's been a lot of advantages to this. So the systems now, they already have their initial monitoring that's required by the new rule. There's some strict standards on how they need to sample. For most of the systems now in our state, they already have that sampling. And what the results of that sampling have shown are the systems that do have impacts. And it's going to take time for those systems to figure out what to do, maybe put treatment in place or find alternative water sources. And so we're actually way ahead of the game here in Arizona. We're already working with those systems, and we're already working on plans to mitigate any impacts that we do have. The other big advantage that we've seen from this testing is it's allowed us to get a good picture of what's going on around the state. So you can see here with these data points, we have a lot of data throughout the state. We've been able to get a picture of what we're seeing with PFAS. I would say good news right off the bat, when you look at this map, hopefully you see a lot of green there. We've got almost 80% of our systems where we've had no detections. That certainly wasn't a result that we knew we were going to see when we started out, but we've been happy to see that. Another 10% of systems do have detections, but those detections have been below those limits that EPA have set. So that's fairly good news as well. That leaves about 11% of our systems in the state that do have impacts above the new EPA MCL. And as I said, we are working with those systems. I should point out this map is actually on our website. It's an interactive map, so you can go to this map, you can click on these dots, you can see what these water systems are, you can see what their results are.
Yeah, I see a couple dots real close to us here.
Yeah, I'm going to get into that here in just a moment. In fact, we can break this down a little bit by county. Now, these are percentages of the test results above and below the MCL and non-detect based on the number of systems. So this is normalized to the number of systems. That way we take out the noise with, Pima County and Maricopa County that have a lot more systems. And your eyes probably went immediately to Santa Cruz County there, and you can see that the green bar is a little bit smaller than it is on the other counties. So again, one of the reasons that I'm here talking to you today, and we can actually zoom in on that map so you get a better idea of what you were seeing there on that statewide map. So these are results. You'll notice that most of the results that are where we had PFAS detections are along the I-19 corridor there, really along the Santa Cruz River. What I've got there on the map in the colors are the results from our sampling of the smaller water systems. I'm not able to map, because we don't have the exact locations, the newest sampling under UCMR, but we do have some older UCMR data, and so I threw those up at least for location purposes here on the map, so you can see those in the gray triangles. Down toward the south, those are City of Nogales wells, and that data is available. It's publicly available, so these larger water systems report directly to EPA. All of that information is available on EPA's website for download. City of Nogales, all of those triangles would be green if they were colored here, so they are. They had no detections in them. Up a little further to the north, that's Liberty Water, Rio Rico, and they did have some detections that were above the MCL. Yep, go ahead. These are all, that's a very good point. That was going to be my next point. These are all public water systems. And again, the real reason I'm showing, because we're out there, we're working with these systems, we're talking with them, they're taking action and are well educated for the most part on PFAS. The reason I'm showing these then, as you can imagine, so in Santa Cruz County, we're aware that there are likely a lot of private wells, probably a lot of private domestic wells. We know from working with ADWR, we can see a lot of registered wells in the area. So you can imagine, if you're close to these areas, we've done some kind of bigger scale study in this area just to look at this, and we do think that as you get closer to the river, there's probably a greater chance of impacts. Of course, that's going to depend on well construction, well depth, all sorts of things. But certainly, if somebody has a private well in these areas, we want them to be aware that these results exist, and we want them to be aware of some of the resources that we have for them. And so, yeah, so these are some of our asks. So we're already looking to partner with other state agencies. So we've been working with ADHS, we've been working with ADWR, and we want to partner also with local officials to help inform the community of what we're seeing here. And we'd also like to get some feedback on, how we can best support the community and how we can best communicate. And I'll show you here, just to wrap things up, some of the resources that we have available. So both ADEQ and ADHS, we have dedicated web pages within our websites for information on PFAS. So at ADEQ, we have lots of links and just general information. We have this interactive map that I talked about. We also have PFAS sampling guidance, so if private well owners are looking to sample their well, we do have some guidance. We have folks they can call. Lots of experience now at ADEQ in terms of collecting PFAS samples. We do link directly over to the ADHS website, and ADHS has a lot of that information I talked about before. Health information. They have well owners guides and a lot of great information for well owners in general. And then they have PFAS specific information and actually PFAS specific fact sheets. So I have an image of one of the fact sheets. I actually have some printed out, so if folks or members of the public would like some of these fact sheets, I can hand them out today. They're also available on the web pages. Then here's some contact information for ADHS. My contact information is there, as well as Joaquin Marufo, who is our Board of Programs Manager and works a lot here. So please feel free to reach out to us, contact us directly. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So that's
I have
all
a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming and doing that presentation. So one of the things that I do know is that throughout Arizona and Santa Cruz County, one of the concerns is water, so as you said, PFAS, they're man-made chemicals, forever chemicals. Yeah. My first question would be, do we know the origin of it, where they're coming from?
That's a great question. Yeah, thank you for that question. We have an idea of the different sources, the different potential sources. PFAS are a little difficult because they are man-made, but they act a lot sort of like nitrates, where we can find them in all sorts of areas, and they're not necessarily from a point source. So some contaminants we deal with a lot, like PC and TCE, we have maybe a factory that was using it, or a dry cleaner that was using it, and so we know it's coming from that source. Here we have just so many sources. They can be landfills, wastewater treatment plants, septic systems. These are sources that just have in general been identified as potential sources for PFAS. So there's a lot of them here, and we don't yet have that kind of direct link here where we say, you know, it's probably multiple sources, I guess is where I'm going with that.
Okay, so do we know if some of these PFAS are coming from Mexico?
That was my question.
So I would say not directly, but we do have some sampling, a very small sample set that was collected at the wastewater treatment plant of the influent and the effluent to the treatment plant, and we did see PFAS in both the influent to the plant and the effluent. That's the extent of what we have.
From what I've heard, manufacturers, companies across the line, and they're actively searching this out, don't have as many regulations and guidelines, and therefore they may be contributing to the PFAS coming in, thus the red and yellow that we see near the border, especially when it comes to the Santa Cruz River. Any truth to that? Any?
Well, I would say that there's not really a lot of regulation on either side of the border right now when it comes to those kind of sources. There's been discussions at EPA, but we haven't seen anything finalized right now on trying to eliminate those sources.
I have another question. So imagine that in the future we are able to detect that some of them come from Mexico. Do we have any international policies that we can work with them, collaborate to reduce this, or not at the moment?
Well, I would say, and this is probably beyond my expertise and maybe a question for like Joaquin and the border team, but we do have good relationships with folks, and we've been working, you know, not just with PFAS, but with other contaminants and the wastewater issues for a long time at DQ with partners across the border. So we do have some of those things in place, maybe not specifically for PFAS, but relationships and other programs that have been in place for a long time.
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
First of all, you mentioned Liberty Water earlier. I would assume that you're working hand in hand with them to, as we move forward, to turn those reds and yellows to greens?
Yes, what I would say is as a larger system, they take on more of the responsibility for making sure that they're meeting those limits. But we are out there to provide resources and to help where we can.
Okay. And would you say they're a collaborative team? I mean, they...
You know, I have not personally worked with them directly. My understanding is our drinking water folks have had conversations and have discussions with them, but I really can't speak to that.
Okay. My last question, and I asked you this when we met up at the courtroom a couple months ago. As I use Liberty Water. I drink it every day. If, as a homeowner, I wanted to, you know, protect. You mentioned that there's ways to do that, going to Home Depot, Walmart, what have you, and can you elaborate?
Yes, absolutely. So we've got resources on our webpage for folks that are interested in potential treatment options. So, you know, that would apply to a private well owner, but it could also apply to a homeowner that's receiving the water and wants to maybe take action before their system can. So we have that information on our website. ADHS also has some information. We have a lot of links to like EPA web pages. There are systems out there. You know, a lot of the systems will, in theory, take out PFAS. So you've got like your reverse osmosis systems that people are familiar with under the sink, even in some cases the refrigerator carbon filters. NSF has a website where they can certify down to a certain level. They're working on new certifications to meet the really low standards that EPA has come out with. But there's a lot of information out there, and we've got some guides on how to read those NSF certifications. We've also got folks, and I'm sure ADHS can as well, answer questions. We can't recommend specific equipment, but you know, I would recommend talking with filter installers or experts when it comes to actual filters.
Thank you very much.
Matt, I have a quick question, but Tocayo, I'll let you ask in a second. Nogales Wash is I think on the back of our mind because of everything coming downhill from Mexico, factory stuff, the sewer. So I'd personally like to see if we can get Joaquin down here and see about the possibility of how we can tackle this issue internationally.
Yeah.
That would be nice, and maybe a follow-up meeting down the road would be nice.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I can relay that to Joaquin, and I'm sure he'd be open to that.
Perfect.
I have another question. So when the PFAS are identified here in the U.S., like where do they end up in the U.S.? What happens with them? Do they get processed or?
Are you talking like when they're manufactured or used in products? Or are you talking if we like
Here.
sample for them?
Yeah,
So when we sample, say, a water system and we identify there's PFAS
correct.
in the water system. So the water systems have a number of options. So if a water system is sampled, they found they have PFAS, it's above the EPA limit. So we're working with them on a number of different options. In some cases, they may be able to turn off wells and turn other wells on. So like City of Tucson, they have a whole bunch of wells. So they've been able to turn off a lot of wells that are impacted and just use other wells. In some cases, we might be able to drill a deeper well or modify the construction. Kind of a last resort is really treatment, because treatment gets complicated. It's expensive. You have to have special operators. What you're doing with a lot of the treatment that we have in place right now is you're actually just pulling it out of the water, maybe onto a carbon filter or an ion exchange media, and then you have to deal with that media. You have to dispose of it or destroy it from there. So there's a lot of things we're working with these systems on, a lot of potential options, a whole bunch of research that's going on out there right now to figure out how we can deal with this in the most effective way.
Last thing. So I think it would be good, like maybe Shannon could do like manager communicators to do an announcement to try to see if other well owners, right, private well owners, and are having this problem, right? And something else, maybe the county manager, if you could please give us a report on PFAS in Santa Cruz County.
Mr. Chair,
appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely we'll work on something that turns out to be a report, at least existing conditions. We're going to be a little bit limited because we don't have the ability to go into somebody's well and monitor it, but I think what we can do is provide some of the resources that you're speaking about on our website so people could.
What if that well owner gave us permission?
We heavily rely on the state, right, to do some of these monitoring, the regulations. We currently don't have a staff member that does all that, but it doesn't mean we can't look into it, Mr. Chair. Mr.
Actually, would you mind, I actually forgot to mention something. This is kind of something new for us, but we're working with ADHS right now, trying to get a program off the ground that would allow some sampling for private well owners. We may have some funding that would allow us, if we had permission from private well owners, to sample their wells, and then we'd be gathering some additional data, and we can report that data. So ADHS has actually been working on an online form where interested well owners, if they're interested in getting their well sampled, they could provide their information. As I said, it's kind of just preliminary in the works right now, but if we had that information, it'd be a go-to list for us to reach out and contact these folks and let them know if we do have the funding available. And I can provide those links. I can follow up with my contacts and provide the link to that form if people are interested.
Perfect. Dr. Martinez.
So they will be required to do that under the new rule. Because this is so new, the EPA had to give these systems time to be able to, first sample and then to treat. So the EPA has given them till 2029 at the moment to either find an alternative source or treat. So by 2029, what you just said will be true. They will be serving water that meets the EPA standards.
Yes.
So as it is right now, the samples that you took were actually from the source that goes to the public?
That is correct in some cases. And so in a lot of cases, as I said, we're well ahead of the game here in Arizona in terms of finding that out and then taking action. And a lot of the systems have already, if they can, shut down wells, move to other wells for production, done what they can to either reduce or eliminate PFAS in their water.
So then, so then it is important that we promote some sort of a toolkit. Last time we talked about the possibility to develop a toolkit so people understand that it's crucial that we have that problem even in the public system, not only in the private wells, right, but in the public system in general. So we start increasing awareness and ways that people can filter the water. I mean, that'll be crucial, to start kind of diffusing preventive measures to intakes.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a number of steps that folks can take if they're concerned. And yeah, we can talk about kind of what a toolkit would entail. And maybe it's just pulling together some of the resources I talked about earlier that we have on our website, on some of these fact sheets, and getting them into a more visible place.
Pam?
I was going to say that Baca Float sent letters to people in Tubac over a year ago indicating that they tested too high for PFAS. Liberty Water, most of those people found out because USA Today newspaper ran a story. And so they started looking to find out what their water was because it came out. This is all based on public water systems. There is no current plan in place. The cheapest filter family could get to do it would be a countertop system, and they run in the $200 to $300 ranges. So they're out of the price range
more than that.
of many of the families who would be wanting these. So they're expensive, and so this needs to be addressed as a public health issue. This stuff is in placentas and breast milk. It is true.
So to be continued.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, though. Yes, Mr. Navarro.
Am I to understand that if I have a reverse osmosis system, that will take care of the PFAS? Because I have a 4-stage reverse osmosis system.
So I am not an expert in filtration, so I want to be careful. But in theory, yes, it's going to depend on the maintenance of that system and other things. You can also look up whether that system's actually certified or not. So there's some caveats to that, but in theory, reverse osmosis is a way we can take PFAS out of water.
That's a good question.
Robin?
Robin?
Thank you, Supervisors, for bringing this up. I really am so grateful because it is an issue that we've been talking about for 2 years. And Matt, I'm Robin Lucky with Gal Access Alliance. Nice to meet you.
Yes, good to meet you. Yep.
Couple of things. I listened to your presentation at the Arizona Hydrological Society, and I think in your deck there was money available, $42 million, to remediate PFAS. So we're in Rio Rico. Our water is managed by Liberty Water. It's a Canadian company. Early this year, they were going to jack up our rates nearly 44%. Now I have heard, I have not seen, that the rate increase will only be about 17, but they waited about a month to come back to our local newspaper and say, oh, we're jacking up your rates to pay for PFAS remediation. I'm like, okay, that's a pivot, that's fine. Now, of that $42 million, is any of that available for Santa Cruz County to do any type of?
So we are prioritizing those funds primarily at the moment for the smaller water systems that are having a more difficult time dealing with this and coming up with solutions. So we are working with a number of small water systems here in Santa Cruz County and providing those resources.
That's great, that's awesome, we didn't know that, so.
Yes, yeah, that we are at work with several of them.
Could you like send a memo with the naming of the water systems you're working with? Is that?
Yeah, I'm sure that we can,
That
yep,
would be great.
yep, absolutely.
John, go ahead, sir.
In extension to your question, do you agree that this is a problem of political will to solve this so-called, what you call it, relatively new problem? The problem exists since the invention of the 50s and 60s of these molecules. And class action suit exists since the 80s and the 90s. Factories are closing. So
Very good point. I did not mean to act like PFAS is new or that we're just finding out about it. Much more so that it's come to the public's attention in more recent years. So yeah, that's
To be
great.
honest about the sources, right? It is the plastics industry, the chemical industry, that is not reacting from they're getting close now, forced, legal forced. And while you can very well make your egg in a cast iron pan rather than a Teflon cast pan. That is, should be known to the public, but it is not.
Could we get a county work group addressing how to help members of the public become educated on PFAS and what they can do to lower their exposure?
It's a good idea, Pam. We'll talk to the manager and we'll see if we can set something up.
I'd like to
I think it's a great idea.
agree. And this is one of the first steps to getting that information out. And, please pass the word to take a look at today's presentation and reach out and use the resources that Matt has talked about today. So thank you so much. Very informative.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, let's go ahead and move on to item 2, update on the Hermosa project by Pat Reisner, president of South 32 Hermosa, Inc. Morning, Pat.
Good morning, members of the board, county staff, members of the public. Appreciate the opportunity. We've committed, I think when we signed the MOU with the county about 5 years ago, to come quarterly and give an update in public. And so, as I've committed in the past, we had indicated a few years ago that we would do our best when I make this presentation to also try to address any issues that come up in call to the public. So there's a few here that I believe I will cover as we go through this, and then happy to take any questions. If we go ahead and go to the first slide. Maybe before I get into the details, I will try to share some additional information and context on a number of issues that have been discussed in the community recently and raised this morning in call to the public. We've been sharing openly what we're doing in this project, both in this forum, public tours, many other things for 6 years now, going back to the early stages of study work. We've not been an apologist for the mining industry and practices of the past. I think to the contrary, there's a number of things we'll talk about today that we've been doing voluntarily to try to address those concerns. But I think more importantly, we have things we're actually building in the field right now that actually we can show people to demonstrate how we're trying to do things differently from the way things are done today and even in the past. And so I say all these things because I do believe we all have a shared interest in making sure the community has the information it needs to address concerns, answer questions, provide peace of mind. And a lot of what I want to clarify today is around how we're trying to do that. I recognize how that's communicated might vary. There may be difference of opinion on that, and there may be some that still have concerns. But I would like to demonstrate how we're trying to work to address concerns in good faith. But I don't think misinformation, information without context, misleading information achieves that goal of getting the community what they need. And at times it's stoked unnecessary fear. And around some of these issues, there has been significant misinformation going around the community in the last few weeks, and I would like to clarify some of that. We're going to have differences of opinion and different views on many things. That debate's really important because we get to a better outcome. But misstatements of facts don't help us get the information the community needs. I would just encourage, if I don't fully answer things today, obviously the supervisors can ask any questions they want, but please, we have a series of engagements, meetings, tours going on outside these venues to try to share more context in what we're doing, to clarify some of these points, and also share facts and data we have as to why we have certain positions on some things that we think
have not been characterized accurately in the public. So if we could start with the first slide, please. I want to start there, and I want to talk about water, and I want to go straight to some of the concerns we've heard in the community recently about well protection agreements, but maybe take a step back, and I think this is where I'll touch on some of Mr. Nordstrom's comments and requests, and I think what I will share is very much aligned with what was said earlier. We started back in 2020, 2021, voluntarily monitoring private wells within a 5-mile radius of the project site. So we have 2 to 3 years of baseline information on all those wells, as well as a whole series of wells that we own before we ever started any activities, before there was ever a water treatment plant or wells or anything. And it is important. We can't talk about the importance of having baseline data in one instance and then ignore it in another instance. Now we're starting to talk to residents, which we flagged that we always would, within a certain area where there's the potential for impacts, not certain impacts, but for the potential for impacts, that we want to enter into a voluntary agreement to ensure there's continuous supply of water. Under current law, nothing requires us to do any of this, either the monitoring or the protection. We could have installed the water treatment plant, drilled the wells, went about that. In the current statutory and legal scheme, that would have been fine. But we've committed that's not how we want to work with stakeholders, that's not how we want to work with the community, and I had previously made commitments that ensuring continuous access to water is important and that we would guarantee that. That's what these agreements do. They do not take any current legal rights away from well owners. This is something else that I believe has been misstated. They actually provide protections and assurances around continuous supply of water that the current legal and regulatory framework don't provide well owners. They also don't impact water rights. I've heard a lot of discussions about we're trying to take away people's water rights. We haven't had one piece of legal feedback on either of those elements of the agreements that demonstrate why they think that's the case. So this is assurances that the legal and regulatory framework does not provide today. We are listening to the feedback, though, and the elements of the agreements that might be a little unclear that could be simplified. We're adjusting the language to make it more clear based on those feedbacks. We've met with almost everyone that has a private well in the area, not all but about 2 or 3, and those meetings have gone very well. We're taking on that feedback and hope we can continue to meet with the others. But again, this is not something we have to do, but we believe it's the right thing to do, and the intent is to ensure no impacts on water supply. I think the discussions about impacts on wells themselves, I think we can have a discussion about baseline data. As we said, we have 2 or 3 years of information. What we see, I sit down, and I sat down in the last few days, and I do sit down occasionally. We have a PhD hydrogeologist that has over 20 years of working on these matters that manages these programs. We have over 100 vibrating wire piezometers, which are instruments that surround the mine site that measure aquifer pore pressure and water levels that we've had in place for many years that we monitor real time. We have a whole network of wells that we own that aren't private wells that surround the site and also go all the way back into the town of Patagonia. That data is monitored and watched very closely, and I've been through it with them. What we are seeing in these wells is standard fluctuations that we've seen from wet season to dry season in the 2 or 3 years of baseline data that we had prior to commencing any activities. Those vibrating wire piezometers and wells, what they allow us to do is they allow us to understand how any impacts are propagating away from the site, if they are, and to what extent. And we don't see movement of those impacts to the extent alleged in that data. This is hard data. We have charts we can show. The water levels in most of these wells, I'm not going to talk about specific wells, but in most of these wells are similar to where they were at points in 2020, in 2021, in 2022. But our meteorological sites on site, we've had 2.4 inches of rain as of 1st of July. Same time last year, we'd had 12. That's more than 30%. It's about a third of the historical average. We're in a historic drought. These are shallow wells. The wells we own, we see 20 foot of water movement from the wet season to the dry season. These are things that have been happening before any of this activity commenced. And so we want to have the conversations if people see those things, and I believe we are, but we have an extensive network of information and data collection to monitor that extent, and that's why the well protection program is actually really important, and we'll continue to have those meetings. Moving on to air, we flagged about a year ago in one of these meetings that we would be doing some voluntary air quality monitoring beyond what our air permit requires for the site itself in Patagonia, Sonoita, and Nogales, so we cover immediate community and transportation routes. That has started. Our aim is to collect information to establish a baseline air quality set of data before we start hauling product off-site or operating the mine site. What we have heard from the community over the years is the primary concern around that is metals and dust, and so the program is designed to meet a industry and regulatory standard and collect several years of baseline data for metals in particular matter. This gets to the point that Mr. Werkhoven made around lead. This is why this is so important. We need to collect that information now. Again, not required by permits, but it is important. We will make that data public, and we will continue to run those monitors once we start operating so that it's transparent if there's any change. It is important that we measure metals. I have heard for several years now the concerns about manganese. Mr. Werkhoven talked about lead. We are measuring metals concentrations. We'll have a good baseline, and we'll be able to see what happens once we start operating. We are aware there's other programs with the U of A and other community groups operating in the region, and we think there's a significant opportunity to collaborate and bring those programs together and provide a comprehensive set of information to the community. They are different programs with different technology measuring different things in different ways, and that's okay. We see a lot of synergies in looking at the data and the information together. We are continuing to work to try to collaborate in that way and present one set of data. There have been some recent statements in the media, however those came about, that collaboration had fallen through, that we decided we didn't want to do that. Those aren't true. At the time that came out, we were already organizing follow-up meetings, and those meetings are continuing to occur. So I feel very confident that we are collecting both programs, a comprehensive set of information that will be really important to provide the community assurances around air quality. Last thing I'll touch on, there were some comments and media coverage recently about some amendments to our air permit. We're working with ADEQ and the US EPA on those amendments. There'll be a public comment period, we believe, in September, and another public meeting likely in late September for the community to review the changes that were made to that permit. Public comment is required. A public hearing is not required. We encouraged ADQ to have a public hearing. We think that will occur. A few things, again, around misinformation. Our permit was not revoked. Our permit was not denied, and our permit was not disregarded in any way. We are operating under that air permit today. What happened is the EPA came back and said there's 5 things you need to address around record keeping and reporting. We've provided some language to address those things. The permit remains in place and valid. Next slide, please. Moving on to workforce and employment. So this is starting to pick up a lot of momentum here. We have almost 250 employees now. That's up from quite significantly over the last 18 months. We will continue to ramp up to close to 900. I think the big news is we've signed a memorandum of understanding with the Santa Cruz Provisional College, the Santa Cruz Center, to host all of the workforce training programs that we need for the jobs in our workforce here in Nogales, which was our aim. The first one kicks off actually tomorrow. So we will have a kickoff ceremony for the first program, which is an electrical certification program that's delivered curriculum, instruction, capacity from Pima Community College, but delivered through the Santa Cruz Center here in Nogales. The very first cohort will be 16 students, all from Santa Cruz County. No cost to be a part of the program. We had a really strong interest in the program, and we've learned a lot from that will apply to the next round. There will be additional cohorts and additional programs and additional skills that roll out from that program, but a big milestone to be able to start to train local residents for skills and permanent jobs in the county. We've also committed to train more than what we need, so there'll be a portion of this cohort that will have skills available, obviously, to other industries. Having a lot of success now starting to identify students and graduates for other types of roles in the community. As we get Centro progressed, we'll have lots of engineering, finance, accounting, HR, just about every discipline, and starting to be able to identify students, and a lot of local hires in that space lately as well. Getting involved in workforce development more broadly, Governor Hobbs has a workforce development council at the state level. Our HR director is now part of that to try to help get the voice of the programs and the initiatives that we're rolling out in Santa Cruz County into that forum to get support as well. And we've invested almost $400,000 to $500,000 in total to get the first program off the ground for instruction equipment and scholarships for students. So a big milestone, and we're looking forward to more of that soon. Next slide, please. Just an update on timeline. Where we're at this year, the total construction of the project is about 40% complete overall. We are continuing to develop the decline to access the manganese deposit underground. That's the project that's 1/3 funded by the Department of Defense. That is 67% complete and will be done by the end of the calendar year. At that point, we'll start doing underground exploration of the deposit. It's important to note we still have not made a decision to mine the manganese deposit. The underground exploration is required to get us to that stage. The 2 shafts we're sinking to access the zinc deposit, one is almost half complete, the other one's early stages. The big milestone, and I'll show you a photo in a minute, we started construction of the zinc processing plant on site in the last few months. I mentioned before, we've been producing a battery-grade manganese for testing with customers for the last 18 months in a laboratory setting. That's being scaled up this year. I'll talk about Centro in a minute. We have about 700 people working in construction, about 400, 450 on site at any time. That will ramp up to 1,000 by the end of this year. Next year, the 2 shafts complete, one mid-year, one late year. The surface construction continues through the year. The underground exploration commences on the manganese piece. We maintain about 1,000 through the year, and first zinc production remains in early 2027. As we get to mid-2027, we start commissioning the process plant, and it's about a 2-year. This is something we've really had to clarify. It actually takes about 2 years to ramp up to our full production capacity, which doesn't occur towards the end of the decade. The manganese development, as I said, we've yet to make a decision to mine it. How we go forward on that will depend on how the domestic electric vehicle battery market develops. Next slide, please. Just a picture, it's a little bit dark here, but a picture of what the site looks like now. You see the 2 shafts in the background. The thing I wanted to point out here is what's in the foreground. That's the new activity that's commenced in the last few months. That's where we're starting to pour the concrete foundations for the facility that will process the zinc ore when it comes out of the mine, and that's what's leading to us ramping up the construction workforce to slightly higher levels over the next few months. Next slide, please. Just some views. The left is the decline being developed into the manganese deposit. That's the Department of Defense funded project that'll be done the end of this year. In the middle is the shaft sinking activities, and on the right is some of the ventilation infrastructure that's been constructed for the ventilation shaft for the zinc deposit. Next slide, please. Centro, we had the groundbreaking in April and appreciate all the support and presence there. We had Governor Hobbs out. 6 of the Native American tribes we've been engaging and working with for a few years now came and participated in that ceremony. We have started the first step is the road construction across the north end of the property, which has started now, and we're working with the city of Nogales on approvals for the building itself, which we expect commence construction on that in September, October timeframe. I don't know if it'll work, but if we can click on the link, we've kind of got a much better artist rendition of what the facility will look like now that we've done more of the design. We'll see if this will work. If it won't work, we'll move on, but it doesn't look like it's working. Well, we're about to publish some better drawings and renderings of what that facility will look like now that it's progressed in its design and engineering phase. Next slide, please. I think everyone understands that's actually one of the pictures in the background that you would have seen in the video of what we expect it to look like once complete. It should be complete end of next year, early 2027. It's got to be online before first production. The reason the workforce training piece and Centro are both so important is because those are the two things that enable us to have a local workforce. We've committed to at least 80% of our permanent workforce will be existing residents of the county. We have to train to do that, but Centro is a really important part of that. More than 200 people will work at this facility, and it'll give us an opportunity to bring people into the industry that haven't worked in it historically, because the technology in the facility allows us to do that. This is a significant reduction in traffic because of where it's located in terms of traffic to site on 82 and other areas, and it takes a lot of vehicles off the road compared to everybody showing up on site. So really important elements of why we wanted to do this. Next slide, please. Talk a little bit about the EIS. I spoke about the update on the air permit before. We appreciate all of the engagement in this process. The public comment period closed in late June. A lot of comments. The Forest Service and their contractors are now working through the response to those comments. They have to provide a response to comments that's occurring. Just a reminder, this only covers the activities outside the private land, so most of what you saw in that photo is on private lands and permitted through the state. But it mainly focuses on how we provide power to the site, the water discharge from the water treatment plant, transportation routes and tailings. As I mentioned in the last update, the preferred alternative compared to no action, so no extension of the operation onto federal lands. If the preferred alternative were denied, then we would have higher emissions because of the transportation routes that we'd have to take. We would have more traffic through communities. And I think the important one is we're getting a lot of feedback on the importance of distributing the water discharge from the water treatment plant more broadly in the Patagonia Mountains, not just down Harshaw Creek, both from the town of Patagonia and even from residents in the mountains. The preferred alternative does contemplate doing that. And so I think that's a really important part of not only spreading that water out, but in terms of recharge associated with the aquifer for that program. We expect the final EIS in February of 26 and the record of decision in July of 26 per the schedule from the Forest Service. Next slide, please. Just a bit on community outreach. Maya talked before about some of the school programs. We've got Tecnolochica's visit to Kit Peak in the lower left corner, the robotics program, back to school events. The U of A has a teacher program that we were part of this summer in the lower right corner, the steak fry in Patagonia. So just a number of things that we've been doing in the community. Again, the STEM programs in the schools are really important. They're not aimed necessarily at directing students into our workforce. They're aimed about promoting STEM skills, interest in STEM more broadly. We have graduates from Tecnolochicas that have moved on into the college ranks in the last couple of years into STEM programs, and wherever they go, whatever they do, that's the objectives of that work. Next slide, please. Just a couple of things that are new. We have the Hermosa Community Foundation that's been in place since 2018, 2019 timeframe. A couple of times a year we do grants. It's only for Santa Cruz County-based nonprofits. You see some entities that were funded in the last round of funding. But the one I want to focus on here, we've talked a lot about local employment. We have ramped up our work on local procurement. The thought behind this is jobs and taxes and things like that are really important. But the other way you amplify the benefit to the community is more locally owned businesses getting more business with South 32, or even standing up new businesses with entrepreneurs. So we have a person dedicated in our supply and procurement team to only working with local businesses on doing business with us, and we've got a program called a vendor readiness program with the Santa Cruz Nogales Chamber of Commerce, where they work with local businesses to help them get set up better to work with us. A couple of examples: Nogales Tactical is now providing all our high visibility clothing at the site. We used to order that in from other places. We have a local bookkeeping business that's helping us with our accounting and administrative functions, and there's many others. So we're tracking how much of our spend is with local businesses with some goals to grow that over time. They then employ more people, and it's more economic activity. A really interesting one, we've started a scrap metal recycling program on site with a business that's Rio Rico based. They obviously benefit from that, but the 30% that we benefit from that all gets reinvested in the Hermosa Community Fund that then goes out to nonprofits. So it's recycling, and it's also providing additional funding for the nonprofit sector. I think that is it. One more? That's all I had. Happy to take any questions on any of that. Thank you.
Gentlemen?
Go ahead.
Pat, I'll start. Well, thanks for coming, and I know that you've been meeting with the county, the city of Nogales, the town of Patagonia, other groups. I don't know, Calabasas Alliance and Para. Is there a group that you still haven't met? Or have you met with everyone that has?
I don't think we met with everyone.
No, everybody interested in this topic, you know that.
Yeah, I mean, part of the point of what I said at the start is we're open to more of that. There is more of that starting to happen. I know there had been a strong push at one point of community groups wanting to be able to ask us questions. I do think there's more of that happening in various forms in various ways. And so we are open to that. I'm sure we haven't reached everybody. We're not perfect. We don't get it all right, but I do think there's more of that happening. And I think that's really important because some of these instances, something comes out, information gets provided. There probably is context or even data or information we have to help with that question. And in some cases that there's no check-in to say, okay, what do you have that might explain this, or can we have a conversation with this? It just gets broadcast out. And so I think while those conversations might not always get us to agreement, at least there's information provided that may be helpful in understanding what's going on, and we want more of that. So I guess that was part of the point at the start of that is it's very helpful to be able to have those conversations. We would appreciate it, and hopefully we have information. We believe we do have a lot of data, should that engagement occur, that can help clarify and provide context around these situations. And if not, we can talk about how we go get it. So.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Ask
I just
another
have a
question.
couple of comments, and then I wanted to ask you, if you could give whatever information we can about the CPBA and, the process that we're following. I thank you for listening to, many of the groups that have some great things to say, the environmental groups. Thank you for continuing to meet with them. And I just want to push that continues. With that said, and part of the CPBA, I want to really continue to push for quality of life for our constituents, transparency, and real-time data. And I think that's, a lot of those things are being discussed in the CPBA. So that's my question. What are your thoughts on the CPBA? What, the process that's being followed? I know there's some things that cannot be said at this point, but would you elaborate on what can be said? Yeah,
I might actually, I appreciate Pam Lemke's comments. I have received that feedback from the group that met on emergency response. That's a really good example. So we're thinking about this in different parts. There's the benefits, the protections piece, but there's an element of the benefits piece that we've always said should initially be focused on needs the community has today. That's likely one of them. Emergency response is probably a good example. We're focused on the U of A capacity assessments, focused on a number of things: emergency response, law enforcement, housing, healthcare, doctors' beds, all those sorts of, like, the basic needs. Are they what they need to be today? And how do we get them to where they need to be with our presence in the community? And so that part's really important, and the comment made in Call to Public, that's a good example of the kinds of things we probably haven't done a good job if we don't address things like that through this agreement with investment and collaboration to address those things if there are issues there. The protections piece is important. We do need to, obviously, there's some regulatory processes running. Our intent from the start, and I think with the signatories, is the protections piece would be additional steps and measures we commit to. There's a legally binding document. It will get legal review, so it's binding. Things we commit to above and beyond the regulatory requirements. So there's a floor of requirements established by state permits, the federal permitting process, all of those things. With the concerns that the community has, what else should we be doing above and beyond that? And so some of the work on air quality monitoring and reporting and how we manage anything that may come from that is another good example of the kinds of things that should go in the protections piece. And so to get this right, it's been a long process, but it's really important. We understand there's a need for transparency and more communication of what's going on there, and I think that will happen soon. But I think there's some good examples already today of why that agreement's important and why getting it done. And the engagement with the community, the topic-based focus groups that happened on emergency response, that's a good example of how we get the right information into the room to get that agreement right.
Right. And when I did meet with Chief Meredith in Sonoyta last week, one of the things that we agreed on, and I think most people would agree on, that when it comes to emergency management and law enforcement, not only is it a protection, but it's also a benefit. I think it serves both purposes. And that's one of the things that, you know, as part of the CPBA, that's just one of the many focuses that not only myself has, but the entire county.
Yeah, and it's part of it is how do we take a historic investment in some resources that are available right now and go beyond just what we need to mitigate or address any impacts from the South 32 operations, but actually, you know, improve services to the community and quality of life more broadly.
Mr. Wright?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I personally want to thank you for these quarterly meetings. I think they're really critical because it provides good communication with us, with the public, and also your outreach to the other groups, all the groups in the community that have interest in South 32. I think it's real important that we continue this communication. CPBA is super important, and we are committed. Santa Cruz County is committed. Mr. Fanning, our vice chair, has been attending. But I just wanted to continue, and I believe that in the past we've had people ask questions through call to the public ahead of time, and I think there was one question ahead of time by John on the private road.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you're going to address that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for the county, but what I can say is in response to that, we are working with the county on that particular issue. I do think there's some things happening as we speak around those kinds of requests, but also beyond just that specific request, some things that need to be done around roads and access in the area around our operation more broadly. So there's a process running to initiate some action around those things.
It's just nice, took a ride out there, didn't we? And we looked at them, so we are looking.
Yeah, access to residences, you know, road crossings, all of those things. Yeah.
Mr. Rice, I have another question. So everybody would agree that the air and the water it's important, right? But when it comes to the protections, to the benefits, I mean, you said that you have like right now currently 250 employees, and it's gonna hit that like 9,000 people soon, right? How many from that number, they're local?
Did you say 9,000?
900.
900. I'm sorry.
We might have some other problems if it's 9,000.
900.
Yeah, so between now and 2030, so that I said it takes 2 years to ramp up to full production. That 800 to 900 is at that point, which is about 2029, 2030. So it's a steady climb. By late 2027, early 2028, we'll probably be around 600. So that kind of gives you a sense of the ramp up. So our goal and commitment, and one of the things we'll, memorialize a lot of this, because we'll have a workforce piece to the CPBA as well, is that of that 800 to 900, at least 80% of them are existing residents of Santa Cruz County to maximize the economic benefits locally. So that's why the training has to start now. By 2029, 2030, we need 650 to 700 plus people working there that live in the county today.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the commitment.
So another follow-up. So, I mean, you're going to start that program tomorrow, 16 people. So is there a plan? Because, I mean, I think if like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, if we don't have that number, people will come from outside, right? Is there a plan to make sure that we get 80% from Santa Cruz County?
Yeah, so there's been a workforce development task force operating in the county for, I don't know, almost 2 years now, that have been working with the provisional college and with PEMA to start to develop these programs and lay it out. The approach is some of these skills take longer to train people and some take shorter. So we're starting with the skills that take the longest. Electricians take the longest to train. We need more lead time, so we'll start there. The subsequent programs that we'll roll out will be skills that don't take as long to train people. Ending with, some of the operator type roles in Centro, where we can train people in 18 months that have no mining experience to work in specific roles, monitoring autonomous equipment, things like that. And so those will be sort of the last ones that we train. But there is a plan. All 3 school districts, the county superintendent's office, as well as PEMA, the provisional college, the Port Authority, a number of others, all have representatives that have been involved in that task force. And so there will be, this is just the first of several that will come.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and take two questions from.
You mentioned the manganese mining hasn't been approved yet by your board, probably. And how do we have to do that in relation with the commitment to process and extract critical minerals? Manganese is probably on top of the critical minerals list. And why does it take so long for Suffolk to start mining?
So, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
The second question, maybe, you mentioned an update is needed for the airport. The DRS is already underway. That is based on the previous airport. How is that going to be incorporated, and what are the details of this update and sample?
Okay. So, so zinc and manganese are on the critical minerals list. Manganese is not the only critical mineral. The reason the critical minerals list exists, they're the 50 minerals where we don't really produce them domestically, but the federal government deems there to be national security or national economic interests with the supply chains. And so manganese is one of the criticals that we don't produce any domestically. It all comes from China, particularly on the battery side. However, the market for the manganese is a domestic market. And so I hear a lot of people say, oh, they're just going to ship the manganese to China anyway. All the manganese goes to domestic, and by domestic I either mean Canadian or U.S. electric vehicle battery manufacturers. That's an industry that is kind of zero today, but is projected to grow significantly over the next 10 years. The reason we haven't made a decision is that market has to develop for us to know if there's enough demand to produce the manganese domestically or not. If you go buy an American-made EV right now, it's got Chinese manganese in the battery, without a doubt. But we need to see what facilities get built in that battery manufacturing supply chain, if it's sufficient to support domestic production and secure customers. And that's going to take some time because it's an emerging new market that's going from kind of zero to probably growing really fast in the next decade. And so we have to monitor that. The zinc is different. There's an existing market today. To close the gap we're projecting in zinc supply and demand globally, you'd have to develop 3 Hermosas a year for the next 10 years. and this is the only deposit of this scale discovered globally in the last 15 years. There is a shortage developing in the zinc market today because we haven't identified zinc deposits globally in a long time. So it's sold into a different market that exists today that already has a shortage. The only zinc we really mine in the U.S. right now is in a mine in Alaska that closes in 5 years, so by 2030 we won't produce zinc domestically either, if not for this project. So that's why it's different. The market situation is different. On the air permit, again, some misinformation. The air permit revisions have nothing to do with emissions limits. The EPA determined that the emissions limits in the permit met the Clean Air Act requirements. It doesn't have anything to do with monitoring requirements. They determined the monitoring requirements met the Clean Air Act requirements, but there were some additional things they wanted us to do on record keeping and reporting. So there's 5 things that ADEQ will talk about in that meeting. I think they will also clarify that the permit was not denied or rejected as it was reported. And so those things don't really have any impacts at all on the emissions inventories and things being evaluated in the EIS. So it's record keeping and reporting issues.
I'll take one more question.
Hey, John Wilson here. Nice to
Yes.
meet you.
Yeah.
So South 32 provided a contract draft to a lot of the residents. I was one of them. I actually retained the services of a contract attorney. Together we created a response which I provided to South 32 and just waiting to hear from South 32 on their response to my response. I don't want to belabor that discussion here, but I did want to talk a little bit about the water issue. So I was trained as a geologist. I work professionally in the oil and gas industry. So I have some experience in geology and hydro maybe to a lesser extent. I'm not anti-mining. I'm anti-irresponsible mining. So I am looking forward to working with you to putting water back in the forest versus treating it as a waste product, which is kind of what's happening right now. So I sincerely want to work with you to put the water back on the forest in a responsible way that benefits the community for the next 100 years. This is not just me ranting. I really want to see this happen. And I want to work with you to make it happen. So that's, putting my hand out and offering to help you do that. And I want to work with you. I mean, this is not me just saying, go solve this problem.
Yeah.
I want to work with you to solve the problem for the community.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you for that. I think, and just so you know, I am aware of all the feedback you've given, so I appreciate that. You will get a response, and I think it's clear to us that that's important to you. I think the EIS becoming final and there being a decision that enables. I mean, we have to obviously have authorization to distribute the water beyond Harshaw Creek. That's part of that process. So once that happens, we absolutely, want to work with the community. The interesting thing is, the change to go from just putting it in Harshaw Creek to distributing it came from community input. The first round of the community advisory panel, one of the first things they worked on was, we don't want all that water in Harshaw Creek. What's a better way to distribute it into additional watersheds and around the mountains? That's why that distribution of the discharge went into the mine plan of operations, because that's the feedback we got. And so if that gets approved and we're able to move forward, then we can work together on those things.
I'll take the last question.
Regarding the CPBA, whenever I'm out in the community and I'm speaking with people, the 2 questions I get are, when do we get to see a copy of this? And what is the process for getting this approved? Is there a public process? Obviously, this is all by choice we doing it. So concretely, my 2 questions are, when does the public get to see this draft? And what is the public process for getting this approved?
Yeah, I can't speak to each signatory on their public process because that will look different. What the city feels they need to do, what the town of Patagonia feels they need to do, and what the county feels they need to do is up to them. What I do know is I think there is general commitment to public process before anything. I think there is a bit of a misconception that we've got this really, almost near final document ready to sign, and it's been a black box. There's been a lot of discussion and exploration, deep exploration, that's really important to get this right, and that has taken a lot of time. I think the public input sessions that were held earlier in the year, the topic-based focus groups that have happened more recently, is to continue to get input. So we understand, I think all the signatories have heard loud and clear that this needs to be more transparent, and we're discussing right now how we do that between now and the end of the year. And so I guess I can't speak for the other signatories, but our commitment is there has to be a public process, we believe. There has to be early input and involvement before this thing is finalized and signed. And we hear you, and there'll be, I think, steps taken between now and the end of the year to make that more clear.
From a county's point of view, I do want to mention that I know that Acorn has been working with each one of the signatories to get more information out there. I know that's the process right now. So I know that Shannon has been, has had a few meetings with the other parts of the signatories. And we want to get it out there as soon as possible.
Thank you, Pat.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn study session and move into general session.
So moved.
Second.
For a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. G, action items. 1, discussion possible action to adopt amended FY 2025-26 tax rates for Santa Cruz County School Districts. Mr. Paz, do you want to?
Mr. Chair, we'll take this.
Okay.
So you previously adopted the rates in the last meeting, or previous meeting, yeah. We amended those rates, so this is, you're reapproving the rates, and we're gonna submit it to the state. That's what it is. And Mr. Honorable Paz earlier talked a little bit about, the discovery of these, of the rates not being correct.
Okay. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to adopt amended fiscal year 25-26 tax rate for Santa Cruz County School Districts.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries unanimously. Okay, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to recess general and move into jail district.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are now in jail district. Item 1, discussion, possible action to authorize to fill vacant A, detention booking clerk position, and B, detention officer position. These are all budgeted, right?
Mr. Chair, they are.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item I, consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, you're still in jail district.
Oh, I'm sorry. Getting a little excited here. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn Dale District and move into general session.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. Item I, consent agenda. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. I believe all we have is item J, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
I second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
We are now adjourned. Thank you. Good meeting.